All right, I just wanted to show you my first modification that I'm making. Rainey says hi, by the way. The first modification I'm going to be making to my Catch PWR100 is the addition of a portable fish finder transducer setup. The reason I'm making it like this is because I have a bass raider that I also like to fish out of, and I was trying to think of a situation where I could come up with to where I could use without having to buy separate fish finders, transducers, etc. for each one. So this is what I come up with. I took my Minn Kota power supply box that houses the battery, and I just went ahead and mounted my Garmin Striker 4 to the top of it. This corner of this lid is empty underneath, so the screws are not interfering with anything there. And I simply plug the fish finder into there. It's got power. The excess wiring is all hidden underneath, and it runs to the transducer, which is going to be mounted on the Scotty mount right there. I haven't mounted it yet, but it's going to be mounted right there. All I have to do is drop it in the water and she's good to go. Now, when I want to change it out to the bass raider, I just simply remove this piece. It pops out by pressing this button. It pops out, and then I simply take the transducer and the power supply and the fish finder all and set it inside the bass raider, and the bass raider is ready to go. So that's just something that I came up with. Later on, I might want to have permanent fish finders for each fishing vessel, if you will. But for now, that's what I've got. Now, I currently have my 30-pound Minn Kota in here. And if you're wondering what that does for leg space, I'm only 5'8", and I have plenty of space left in there for my legs. I had my Doberman in my kayak this past weekend, and I still had plenty of room, so I'm not really worried about that. I still have room for my tackle gear and the power, the trolling motor lays down. Now, I do have a 55-pound thrust, 24-inch shaft on order also. And I'm not worried about space, really. So I think it's going to work out great. I'm excited to be able to get it out on the water and try it. The trolling motor and rudder came in sooner than expected. Two things I'm going to be adding additionally is the Newport Vessels 55-pound thrust trolling motor, 24-inch shaft. Pretty excited about that. And also because I have had the worst time with keeping the kayak straight, as well as my bass raider, I'm gonna install this Bullnose rudder onto the bottom of the shaft of the trolling motor to try to maintain a little stability in the water when wind and such comes along, just to try to stay in the spot where I want to be rather than having to wrestle so much. We'll get started opening this up. So it comes packaged with styrofoam on top and bottom, and the styrofoam is form fitted to the shape of the trolling motor to keep it in there nice and snug, and it is wrapped with plastic, as you can tell. The bottom of the trolling motor is also packaged with styrofoam that is form fitted to the shape of the engine there, so it is nice and snug also. Comes nicely wrapped. Instructions there to be sure and call Newport Vessels directly with all customer service questions. Has a contact phone number there as well. Let's get this unpackaged. Looks like the 3-blade propeller comes individually, separately boxed inside there. Also noticed something, that these cables are made to go directly to the battery. And so I'm gonna have to make a decision if I want to cut those wires and put the adapter on there, or do I want to put a battery in the back of the kayak which I can do, but I'll have to make that decision. I may try it on my first run out with this trolling motor just to see if it makes a huge difference, enough of a difference. All right, I've got the propeller out. It comes packaged with a wrench for easy installation, as well as the hardware needed. I noticed also on this shaft, there is a protective coating there. So I'll just remove that, set that to the side, and I'm kind of doing this without reading instructions. I will probably go back and do that after, as most men do. All right, so there's a little metal shaft here that's going to be installed right there, and this part is going to fit right over there. All right, it's got a good fit. I could feel it go in, and then the washer, and then the nut. And that's where the wrench comes in handy. Actually necessary. Have to place a little opposition there, but yep, it just goes around. All right, I've got that completed, nice and tight. Now I'm going to put my Bullnose rudder installed as described right there. Now I need to go ahead and loosen these screws up. Okay, I have it on the shaft. It's not completely tightened yet, but that's the way it's going to live. Now I just need to tighten tilt my engine up so I can actually reach the screws. What I wanted to point out is I've got this rudder sitting all the way flush on, as much as it will go, right onto the top of this engine. And I'm just going to simply tighten these down, and that will hopefully provide better support when it comes to movement on the water. Okay, so these are pretty much tight, but I wanted to point out that this shaft is just about the same size as the allowance. So what I wanted to point out is make sure that when you are tightening these, you kind of rotate from side to side so there is an even positioning, as opposed to one being tighter than the other and there being a overly large gap left on one of the sides, which could possibly cause the rudder to fail at some point. All right, that looks like a perfect fit, actually. Perfect fit. And that's about as much as that's going to go. That's about it. That's about it. And that's it. So, all right. So here we have Newport vessels, 55-pound thrust, trolling motor, and a Bullnose rudder attached. And hopefully I will be able to get this on the water and demonstrate its performance, or at least give you my opinion on how it's performing. I couldn't resist. I went ahead and just temporarily hooked it up to the battery just to see how this bad boy works. And I love the fact that this engine has the power meter on there. Tells me how much power I've got left in the battery, or at least I think that's what that's telling me. And I am just thoroughly impressed by the sturdiness factor of this engine. Turn it on, and that's apparently on the low. it's high. Wow. I'm not gonna, oh, that's reverse, okay. All right, cool. So I'm really impressed by the Newport Vessels brand. It just feels well built as soon as I touched it. Does not feel cheap at all. And I can tell you that I think I'm gonna be happy with this trolling motor. All right, I've got her set up, how I'm going to be taking her out when I take her out. So, of course, I'm gonna transport this in the back of my truck. I'm gonna take that trolling motor off while it's in transit. But, so you get your trolling motor there. I've got my battery power center there with my fish finder. Transducers run up there. That's the way I'm gonna operate this for this test voyage for the trolling motor. I just hate to disrupt the beautiful work that the factory has done on those connections, but I probably will eventually do that so I can set the battery up here and utilize the pre-wired connections that Pelican provided. But for today or whenever that time comes that I can slip away, that's the way it's going to go out on the water. Now I'm 5'8", and this will leave me plenty of room. I can adjust the seat back if needed. And I noticed the other day that my feet didn't even really touch those footrests when I had my Doberman in there. So I think it's gonna be good, and hopefully it's not too windy. We can get out. Well, maybe hopefully it is windy so I can test the stability of this rudder that I put on there. But at any rate, I will post a video of us fishing as soon as possible. Maybe she'll go with me, I'm not sure.